We got past the new year, and what's left? Isn't it now? Try and get past the now. Find it pretty hard. Present awareness. No one is unaware right now. That presence awareness is your true nature, what you really are. And though it's seemingly expressing through the pattern, shape and form that you call me, what good would that expression be to you if it wasn't for that presence awareness that is animating, that's living it, that's breathing it, it's beating its heart, it's growing its hair and its fingernail. It is, and we call it I or me. And that puts the brakes on it, puts the limitations on it. Instead of I as the absolute, it's become I or me, this separate entity, this individual, this person. It's had a rough trot. Things haven't been too good for it. Doesn't like this, doesn't want that, and this happens. That. All these stories made up of words, thoughts, ideas, and images come up. We get locked into them. Out of the habit and believing it, we're locked into them. And follow the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, thinking we'll come to some conclusion. What does Nisargadatta say about them? He tells you, a quiet mind is all you need. Once the mind is quiet, everything it follows by itself. And when that needed to be looked at. When I look back on it, I'll say there were long periods of time when the mind wasn't quiet. All sorts of things were appearing to go on and happening and occurring, causing all sorts of emotions, feelings, and thoughts, and all these emotional things like anger, fear, depression, guilt, and a continued trying to get the answer, a continued trying and belief that the answer was there. And I only need to recognize or repeat or look. And I would find it. And that continued belief and trying, it's not allowing the mind to rest. Let it be. If it's left as it is, it settles down. And today, these days, in long periods of quietude, and it's no longer chattering, no longer carrying on, no longer trying to become or fix something. As that was tried for many years, and never ever worked. It's with the seeing through all the chatter and the conflict and the angst and everything else, and leaving the mind, the so-called mind, rest and relax. There's a recognising that in that silence, in that stillness, in that emptiness, there is a life, a knowing, which I call, and there are others who call it the same, awareness. There is an awareness of being, the basic beingness. There's awareness of being. And that awareness of the being, without any of the concepts, ideas and images, it is a sense of well-being. Not being angry, not being fearful, not being into some story or convoluted story or argument. Just leaving it as it is and being well. Nothing wrong. As the psychologist says again, you can only put it negatively. There's nothing wrong anymore. So instead of trying to hang on to the good, he's letting you know quite plainly there's nothing wrong. The so-called seemingly bad is not wrong either. Just as it is, it amounts to nothing if we're not putting the concepts or labels or beliefs in it. So the struggle goes out of it. The fight goes out where I've got to maintain this belief. I've got to keep recognising and realising the true nature. I better not do that. Should not think that or activity or not understand that or recognise this. Leave it. Leave it as it is. As it's rising, it's coming up as thoughts, feelings, emotion. Who is the thinker? And the belief has been that I am the thinker. I am the knower. I am the one that understands or is aware. That's been believed for years and years and taken to be believed. And being looked at and investigated and seen, trying to recognising what it is exactly. Till finally registers in the realisation that it is no thing, hasn't got any substance, hasn't got any independent nature. It cannot stand on its own. It's just the vibrating energy that comes up as thoughts, feelings, emotion, words that we've learned. I can remember when I didn't have any words, before I knew anything about it. I can't tell you much about it. It was a knowing that I was there at that time. I couldn't say much about it because I didn't have words to express it to you, or explain it, or say this is how it is. But the life was there. the animating intelligence, energy, the life essence was there. It was functioning as words, as thoughts, as ideas and images, and given a personal taint to them. This is me that's doing it. This is me that knows all this. It is me that's going to become something or get something or somewhere. Because it's not good enough the way it is. I am unhappy. I am fearful. I am anxious. I am angry. Like and dislike. Sad, sorrowful, remorseful, guilty. Not much well-being there. Not much being well. Because it wasn't given a chance. As soon as the thought came up, this sounds, yeah, but what if, why, what do I do next? What's going to become? Is this happens or that happens? The story would start. And that story made of words, which had been picked up along the way, discriminated it. Instead of leaving it just as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, the story went on and on and on and gathered momentum. Where from? All these ideas, concepts, images and beliefs that were stored in that memory came about years ago and were remembered and stored. And of course, when there was any looking or investigating into that storehouse, there were myriads of different things that could come up and push the so-called presence awareness, the nothingness, further and further into the background, making the believed in conceptual image, me, more prominent, more realistic. I know I can do this. I can change things. I can alter the world. I can do all sorts of things. But what happens when it didn't come about? Where did all those positive concepts and ideals and images go? They went back into the depth, and I was pushed into a background of more thoughts, concepts. I'll try harder. I'll think this through. I'll recognize it. If I do this or do that, repeat it or do some other mantra and reason it out. I'm intelligence, I can reason it out. I will become what they talk about, enlightenment. But who is this I that's trying to do it? What is I? This I that's become prominent, seemingly running the show. What is it? Is it me? This person? This individual? This not only person, but this suffering person, an unhappy individual. Is this what I really am? When I read some of the scriptures and listen to what the teacher of the time that was useful for me told me, saying, start from the fact that you are already that. What is the that he's talking about? You are already that great perfection. You are already the absolute. Start from the fact. That's a fact. Where are these stories going to appear? They appear in that conceptual image and just reinforce the conceptual image that now it seems more real than it was before. And naturally, if it seems more real, there's more frustration, there's more fear, there's more anger, more depression, more guilt, and more unhappiness. But they talk about enlightenment, talk about freedom from the known, talk about the great perfection and the absolute. Well, where is it? Why haven't I picked it up? I've been looking this morning, I've been utilising this seeming knowledge that I know. And I've got all sorts of thoughts and concepts about it. But on investigation, these concepts and thoughts don't stand up. They let me down. They fall apart. And I'm left in deeper problems and troubles than I was previously. But then have another look to what I'd taken to be the truth when resonation with it, and resonating with the so-called what appeared to be the teacher, and knowing the one that was knowing. And listen to what was being expressed there. And it was being expressed totally differently. Instead of repeating this mantra or word, or going into that, or going into that, start from the fact that you already are that is all there is. It's only the one essence. And the basic teaching of the so-called Hindu teaching of non-duality is I am that. You are that. And that is existence, consciousness, bliss, nama rupa, the 5 factors. And have a look at that. What do you do to do about your existence right now? You have to turn to learn it, or acquire it, or pick it up? Or isn't it a basic fact that I am existing right now? Well, I don't know about what you think, but that is a fact as far as I'm concerned. I'm existing. Try and stop existing. I'm not going to take a gun and put it to my head and forcibly find out what's there without thinking. And let it thinking what's going on right now. Does that existence just stop? It doesn't. It continues with every breath I take. It continues with every thought that comes up, is loudly pointing out its existence, it's existing, it's existing. Am I unconscious? Unaware? No, I'm not unconscious. I'm not unaware, because these thoughts are still coming up and going on. And the focus is not going into them as much as it was. It's not troubling me to the extent of that. But in saying that, I'm not unaware, I'm not unconscious. And knowing that, seeing it as the truth and recognizing it, well, naturally it becomes more pronounced. And the thinking and the thoughting and the feelings and all the going on fade away to a bit more extent. They're not so pronounced anymore. and there's more room for the blissful, natural, spontaneous functioning to go on. Am I stopped being? No. I'm knowing that I'm here. I am being this entity, seeming entity, or this pattern, which I've got all sorts of descriptions on and names it for. But is the livingness, it is the life of this pattern. I am that life. Well, why not recognize it, know it for certain, and give credit to it? If that life wasn't there, how many of these thoughts or feelings that are disturbing me could I have? How many concepts? How could I say it was unhappy or depressed I felt if it didn't appear in that life? What must I be? The thoughts, the concepts would go on madly, but if it's recognised, the less extent, the less energy that's put into them. If they're left as they are, they settle down into a steady, non-conceptual, pure knowing, which is freedom, as Krishnamurti said to me, but freedom from the known, which is freeing me from all these known or believed in concepts that I'm holding me and to keep me bound into it all. Instead, when they come up now and seen for what they are, and left as what they settle down. They fall away. Really simply why? Because there's no energy of belief put into them. They're seen for what they are: thoughts, feelings, emotion, concepts, ideas, images. All appearing in the life. And if life is all that there is, and when they tell me in these texts and scriptures that there is only life, there is nobody who lives a life. And I've seen in this seeming body that I believe is not what I am, and I must be that no body that the life is expressing through and patterning through. I can't be this body, this conceptual image that I believe myself to be. I am no body, no mind, no pattern, no shape, no form. And I look out there and we got what we call the space, the silence and the stillness, and see there's all sorts of patterns out there. All sorts of seeming separate entities and beings. Not one or two, but myriads and myriads of them. Can I discriminate or attach to any one particular one? I can grab that tree out there. What can I do with it? And I realise, what is it? Be broken down into wood. Wood is one of the elements they talk about in China. And the air and the life and the sap that's going through it are all elements also. And all those elements can be broken down to subatomic particles into pure energy. And this body's made up of the elements: air, earth, fire, water, space. So if this belief that I am this person, this conceptual image, this Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, and all the other concepts and ideas, if I am that, what are they? Made up of words. What are words? Sound. What are sound? Vibration. What's a vibration? The movement of energy. So can I say I'm a body? Can I say that it's mind in its body? When I can break it down into vibration, into elements, into energy. What can I do with energy? Can I grasp it? I can recognize it. I can recognize that these words coming out of this mouth now are vibration. They're only energy. But which word is the real? Is there one of them real? Energy is an activity, a movement. Now, which one's staying around? Stop the activity. Not one of them. So we don't fixate on any of them. Where must I go? Back to that which I've been avoiding, the silence. Back to that stillness. Back to that sense of presence. It's not a moment ago or not a moment in the future. It's presently happening right now. It's happening as these words, as these thoughts, as these feelings, as what's going on outside this apparent body, and the wind that's moving the trees and the flower, the birds that are flying around it, the cars that are fleeing by on the road. Is any one of them static? They're not. They're constantly changing. And is this body static? I just took a breath, a movement, a lung full of air. And does that stay there? No. It needs to be breathed out. What stays there? The only thing that stays there is some thought or concept that I've fixated on and holding there. Well, this one's real. This one I've got to do this or that one. And the fixation and the belief in it, the seeming keeping it there, it becomes a problem. Now I believe I am that thought. It's not a good thought. I need to get rid of it. And to get rid of it, I've got to fight with it. I've got to become in conflict with it. I haven't realised that there's no thought. In all these years, I hadn't realised that there was no thought that is static in the body. That every thought comes about, hangs around for a while, and moves on. There's nothing static or solid at all. The same thoughts can come up and seemingly, because they're not let go out with the air, they're still held in there, can cause all sorts of havoc, all sorts of problems. And then the understanding comes from somebody like Shakespeare, 400 or 500 years ago, could even knew it. When he says there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes us that. He's pointing out that this thinking is a problem. And he's pointing that 400 or 500 years ago. Do you think it's changed? If it was a problem then, when we didn't understand all the words, we understand it. Maybe it's a greater problem today. And the only way it can be a greater problem today, because the energy of belief, that energy which we now taken as a belief, I am this person, I am this pattern, taking it to be real. And I've got to change. I've got to do something about it. and see with those thoughts, what am I doing? I'm not enlightening the concepts of the mind by getting rid of the word. I'm clinging to the word, hanging on to it, and trying to make it into something that's real and solid. But having, luckily, unfortunately, investigated the word and seeing that the word is not the real, it's just a concept, just an image believed in, vibrating pattern of energy. I call this thought or that thought or this feeling or that feeling. Take it to be real. And that energy of belief going into it, that's seemingly real. And I looked at it, investigated, and didn't take any notice of it. So I'm not out of the trap while the belief is going on. Still in the trap of the word. And whose word is it? It's my word. It's my thought. It's my feeling. It's my emotion. Who's this me or my that I'm talking about? Well, that's a good one. It's me, Bob, the Australian, who's the good fella, who knows this and knows that and likes this and likes that. But people don't think he's good enough. He's having a bad trot. He's not liked, or he doesn't like this one himself, and things that happen to him. What are these things that are happening? Are they anything other than thoughts, concepts, ideas, and images? Which, because they haven't been fully investigated, the words are seemingly real. Seemingly real. Because today, I know that the word is not the thing. The word is not the real. The word never was the thing. The word never can be or never will be the real. And so in knowing that, there's a freedom from the belief in the conceptual, in the words, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the stories, or freedom from the known. Because all these thoughts, feelings, and emotions are something known. We believe we know. So the title of that book becomes true. There can be a freedom from the known. And the other one, self-realization through seeing with naked awareness. We're looking to realize this believed in self, which we take to be a separate personal self. And they tell you that self-realization is the answer. And they say it's through seeing with naked awareness. What is naked awareness? Anyone unaware right now? No, I'm aware. Well, how many concepts have you got on aware? I'm aware of this, I'm aware of that, aware of something else. And got it. Through non-conceptual awareness. Drop the concepts. Drop the thoughts, the feelings. If I am awareness, I am awareness. Full stop. That awareness is first. And then on it comes the consciousness. And on the consciousness come the thoughts, the feelings, and the emotions. They're all coming from that non-conceptual, ever fresh presence awareness. This awareness is immediate presence. Not the past, not the future, not the presence in the future. in a little bit of time, but immediate presence. And the realization, recognizing and seeing that this naked awareness is seeing, it's hearing, it's tasting, it's touching, it's smelling, it's knowing. Basically, it is the knowingness. Any one of you who is not knowing right now, and if you're looking at it, you must admit, no, I know. There is a knowing there that I am. I might believe I am the body of mind, but I am that sense of presence which expresses through the body and the mind as a thought I am. And I can transfer from that believing that I am into the knowing that I am that. And that's the great mantra. That is that. Everything is that. There is nothing other than that. Have a look around you. What do you see? You see the chairs in the room. And you know that is the chair. You see the space in the room. That is space. You see yourself sitting in the chair. That is me. You look outside and you see that's the tree. That's everything is already that. And what's that? A word, a sound, a vibration, a movement of energy, which we've taken the word, the sound, the vibration, the pattern, shape and form to be real, to be something. And when we believe the word to be something, that awareness is no longer naked. It's a mentally constructed thought. A thought suffused with feeling, knowing and being. And that's not it. And the thought will continue until it's looked at again. Is a thought the thing? Well, if I drop that thought right now, what can be said if I'm not thinking? The thinking stopped. When there was no thinking, there were no words, there were no concepts. I didn't stop seeing, didn't stop hearing, didn't stop breathing, heart didn't stop beating. But the thoughts, amazingly enough, had ceased. And again, right now, and again they start again as soon as some concept or idea or put an image put on. But get to where the silence and the stillness is. If that's there, what else is happening? Can I say there's fear? Can I say there's anxiety? Can I say there's depression, guilt, shame or remorse? Sure, I can shout them as loud as I like. But was it a fact? No. The fact was there was an absence of all those conceptual images. They weren't far away. They can easily be latched on again and come up. But in that pause, there was just the zero, the zilch, the presence of awareness, the presence or knowing of that awareness. And that awareness is being. It is the knowingness itself. And that knowingness or beingness cannot be negated prior to thought. prior to concept. It's not too far away. As the poet, I think it was, what was his name now? One of the great poets said, it's closer than your breathing. It's nearer than your hands and feet. Well, have a look at that. Without the thought, and your breathing might be paused for a minute. What's the closest thing to you? Isn't that knowingness? It hadn't disappeared, hadn't moved away, was basically there with the thought or without the thought, that knowingness. But there was no concepts going on. There was no labelling or imaging putting into the knowingness. So there was a freedom from the knowing. It was the knowingness without the known. And that freedom is the life, the essence, the being. That this is what I am. And that I amness, sense of presence, becomes more apparent each and every day. Every time it is looked into and recognised, it becomes more certain, more absolute that this is the reality. The rest is conceptual, comes and goes. And if they're not fixated on, they're not attached to, they're no problem. So they're not the big enemy and concern that they appeared to be for years, when there was an attachment to them and a belief in them. And they hung around for days, weeks and months. Somebody called me a bad word and I'm saying, I'll get the so-and-so and blah, 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 and carrying on a big story about it. The story is made up of words, concepts, ideas, and images. And I am not the concept, word, idea, or image. I am that. Again, in the recognition and seeing that, there's a pause. There's a stillness. And that is all there is. Right there. Which thoughts, feelings, emotions, fear, anxiety, and all the rest can appear on if I go back into indulging in the word. If I don't indulge in the word, what's there? Well, what Nisargadatta pointed to when he said, my silence sings. And listen to that silence and stillness. And there is something about it, an air about it, well-being, if everything's okay. The silence throbs and pulsates. My emptiness is full. In that pause, do I have to fill it up with thoughts? Or be the emptiness that's singing and full of the song of life, the heartfelt emotion, the reality that you are. So go for it if you feel like it. If you don't. And that's enough from me. I'll put Kat on and she'll add something to it, but feel free to ask questions. And if you don't have any questions, point to what you've grasped or understood, because you've all had taste of it. It's all closer to you than your breathing, nearer than your hands and feet, and it sings of itself. So go for it.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So has Bob extinguished all the questions and doubts? Because that's the biggest problem with him. People have issues or are not certain or have a struggle with things, and then they listen to Bob and everything temporarily evaporates. No questions, everything's clear and obvious. And then next day or next hour, things come back and Bob's not there. I mean, he's always there, not perhaps in the middle of the night, but he's always there. So if there is anything that perhaps troubles anyone, maybe that would be a good time to bring it up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, go on.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So I came across the non-duality a while ago, but I suppose I was not ready really to understand. And I've been really diving deep into it for, I think, 3 months now. And it has changed my life, or whatever I call life, and has been preparing me to. Now, one thing, and that's the second time I hear Bob speaking in you, Kat. So one thing is that I understand all of this, that we are one, and even if we go to the science, we see that our bodies are molecules, cells, molecules, and atoms. And then if we really had a huge magnifying lenses, we would see that we are all the same thing. Yeah, so it is all the one. That I get it all. However, what Bob just said now, that about the labels, about the words that we give, and that we are that. One thing is that, and I understand that, but one thing is that, doesn't this concept of we are that, don't give labels, and I understand how, like, how this works, but doesn't this make us people with no feelings? You know, because I am, and getting to that, I know that with the feelings, we can be very, very happy, and then something happens and we can be very, very sad. And I understand, like, it in a matter of 5 minutes, depending on what happens. And then this is what I believe Bob is saying, that the label and we are that. However, isn't it, say, what is the point of knowing being alive if we can't really have that huge laugh, or have that really, like, build dreams again, trying always to live in the present, because the present is all that is. But whenever you have a win, let's say that in your day, or a win in your life, or a milestone, being happy about it, doesn't thinking that we are that, like, make us, like, desensitize? What is the word? I forgot. Like, doesn't it make us people with no feelings? I am afraid of that. So over to you. Thanks.
Beautiful, beautiful question, beautiful description.
Well, it's the very thinking that causes the problem, because we're already that. And
we have feelings.
Yeah, have feelings. If it didn't divide into the opposites,
Mm.
you know, how would it be? Can there be good without bad? They can't. Can there be pleasure without pain? So they've all got to appear. But the problem is, we believe in, when they come up, instead of seeing them, that they two ends of the one stick, they'll come and go. There's no fixation on them. We fight with them, get into conflict with the word. And when we get into conflict, it makes us uneasy. And that uneasiness can be depression, guilt, shame. And that's, uneasiness is disease. So there's resistance, conflict, and disease going on in the body. Instead of leaving it as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Doesn't mean to say that the pairs of opposites won't come up. Doesn't mean to say that we won't seemingly attached to them at times. And the very attachment to them, it's recognised that it's not me that's detaching, how it is.
Mm.
And there's clouds, have a look outside in nature, the same thing's happening. When you go outside on a cloudy day, the clouds have obscured the sun. But you and I know that the sun's not obscured. Instead of saying, oh, the sun's gone, the sun's gone. If we know that the sun is behind the clouds, and when you look into it and realise that the sun itself has formed the clouds, the sun shines of itself, and in its radiance, it evaporates water. And that evaporated water condenses as it comes up and cools down and goes back into water again, forms a cloud, then goes back into the water, which goes back into the ocean. Well, same with the thoughts and the feelings and emotions. They come up and we take them on board and they do what, see those clouds that came down as rain and did a good job, did something to do. Those thoughts that need to do something will do it. The thoughts we fixate on and go into the head with and hang on to for days, weeks, and burden ourselves with are not necessary. The suffering is not necessary to the extent it goes on. Because who does it go on with? We go on with the other seeming entities. We take ourselves to be a separate entity, an individual, not a person. We don't take ourselves to be the absolute. But with the sun and the clouds that are condensing, evaporated the water will condense back into the water, are doing what they need to do. And they're not fighting with one another. And look what happens with us. We're in conflict with one another, this, that, and the other. And that's not necessary either when you understand your true nature. And life goes on quite naturally and effortlessly. And it will still appear in all its diversity. The saying is, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And what is there to be free from? Just the belief that you are the person. You are an individual. You are the separate entity. You've taken yourself out of the absolute, out of the reality, and putting the boundaries and conditions and patterns on yourself, which are got you in bondage.
Also, the idea that something can be lost, like the joy can be lost upon this, like throwing away the lie that there is someone there. Because basically non-duality says the natural state, being us in nature, is something that we were born with. Every creature has Buddha nature, the dog, the child, everything. And now on that, we imagine that there is somebody there. We call it ego, we call it soul, or we call it spirit, or we call it me, that there is someone living there, and that someone has free will, has shames, fears, anxieties, that some little entity inside the body or inside the mind, suffering little entity, exists. So the moment we look inside and we see there's no one there. There's just life doing everything. There's no little me growing the hair. There's no little me thinking thoughts. Once we discover that this little me is only a story in the head, we also discover that it has always been only a story in the head. So if you had feelings yesterday, and today you discover that these feelings belong to the body mind responding to the environment, not to that me, that imagined little dwarf or whatever it is there, imagined little creature, then you realize that you had feelings yesterday, you had feelings 20 years ago, 40 years ago. You will always have feelings, because feelings are part of the whole makeup. Just like the animals, they don't imagine to have an ego and be guilty or be responsible or be suffering. Let's say if you look at the dog, beautiful little creature with a lot of feelings. How happy the dog is when it runs and greets the owner. Oh, what a happy little thing. Or cat. We have a couple of cats. they may seem upset at times, you know, like one of our cats is really fat. So I try to sometimes take away the food before she eats for herself and her brother. Well, she doesn't look very happy about that, but she doesn't have a story that, oh, the world is against me, I'm unworthy, nobody loves me, I feel incomplete. This is what we call psychological suffering. If the dog will be thrown away of the house and will become homeless, and it will wait and wait and wait for the owner, it will really look very upset. But it will be just a habitual action. There won't be a narrative, as far as we know, the neuroscience of the dog's brain or cat's brain. They do not hallucinate separate entity or the self that has a story about poor me. So really the investigation breaks a pattern of psychological suffering. It doesn't promise that nobody will ever leave you, or you will not have the feelings. The feelings will not arise if something goes missing or someone slap you in the face or do something. The feelings are totally there. It's just that those feelings don't belong to the ego. They're impersonal feelings. And especially if no psychological suffering happens, let's say I'll go to work and I'll have an accident on my motorbike, and then there is a pain, there is a feeling of pain. There may be resistance to pain because that's how the body is conditioned. But the story that, oh my gosh, how did I deserve it? I must have been something bad in the past life, or maybe somebody cursed me, or maybe God doesn't love me. That stuff doesn't arise anymore. And even if it does, it would just basically make me laugh. So being human is even more, because without that narrative of psychological suffering, there is more quiet here. And now you look around and you see, oh, the child has fallen. You find yourself going and helping it. Oh, the animal is hungry. It's naturally happening because I'm not busy obsessing about the poor me, constantly narrating how things should be different, how I should or have to fix myself or do something to feel better or different. Life becomes much more simple, like for a little child. Child is playing, is curious, is open. Definitely take away a toy and a child will scream their ass off. But 5 minutes later, it's gone. It's a new moment. So it doesn't really deprive anyone from being human, from having human interactions, human feelings, human joys, sadnesses. But they more of part of the happening, and they are not carried on and refueled by the dramatic story about poor me, unworthy me, incomplete me, unhappy me. It's more living like an animal in the nature, kind of.
Sure, that is just so clarifying, like so clarifying. You have no idea, Kat, what you and Bob just explained to me. Thank you so much. So in summary, and see, please, if I get it right, you're still gonna have feelings, but don't be resistant to the feelings and don't have a story behind it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, no. Oh, thank you so much. Now, another question. Can I ask another question?
Please.
Yeah, sure. So another question that I find very hard, and again, what Bob said, the truth will set you free. So even when I was a Christian, still like 15 years ago, and I'm not saying for anyone here not to be, sorry, but when I was 15 years ago, I stopped being a Christian. I had this verse from the Bible that was very clear to me. So you know the truth will set you free. So I really like that. Now with knowing the non-duality, and it's really helping me with there's just this moment, is that I've always in my life been a proactive person, extremely proactive person. And sometimes what came with that is that I'd be planning the future too much. And before, and of course, not living the present. Before I even knew about the illusion of free will, I agreed with it. I sort of had this in my consciousness that, hang on, I plan all these things. They happen in different ways, but I never could help being proactive. So I was always planning, being proactive, and doing things all the time, very energetic. But I always knew that things were going to work different ways from what I have planned in a lot of times, not every time, but in a lot of times. Now, with the whole being proactive and planning your life, and I struggle with the planning your life and being in the present. I'll give you an example right now. I really, really want this job. It's happening now. I have an interview for the 13th, and I am studying like day and night. I do have a job now, but I want this other one. I do like my job now, but I really want this other opportunity. So I'm studying day and night. I can't help that. And the thing is that, how do I understand? How do I understand? Oh yeah. So what happens is that as I am planning, as I am studying for this interview, I can't help thinking of when I get that job. I simply can't help that. It's very, very hard. And then I try to focus, hang on, live here. It is here that you are studying. It's in the present that you are going to achieve the future. But then it throws me back. It throws me again to the future. So I struggle with still being a proactive person and still having plans. They don't even have to be career plans. They can be travel plans. Yeah, and I think the whole planning travel plans are not happening happen to most of us. So how do I reconcile the living in the present but still being able to plan but not living in the future? If there's an answer for that. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question also, and it also have very, very simple answer, because if there is no you, then there is nothing that the you can do apart from just being conscious of what's happening. See, I used to be very, very future oriented as well, and I still have a great capacities to organize things or plan things. They just go, they just fall through me, but I don't take any credit for it. And I'm aware when every action is happening. If the action of planning or the action of calling people, I still work, I visit people, I help people, all that is happening. I schedule box Skype calls as well. This is all seemingly relating to the future, but there is no engagement with the future per se. If the thought appears, that's not my thought. I didn't start it, so I can't stop it. And there is nothing wrong in any thought that appears. Like if I am the open space, and that's what Bob is saying, I am that, you are already that, you are the absolute, you are the life essence, the energy that is breathing you, beating your heart. This is who you truly are, not that little me inside. That little me may imagine that, oh, maybe I can stop going to the future, maybe I can try and be more in the now. But that me is not real. So it can't stop, go to the future. It can't try being in the now. It can't do anything because it is imaginary, it is illusory. So there is nothing really that can be done, and there's nothing that needs to be done, apart from the plain recognition. Oh, there is a habit of imagining future coming up. Oh, interesting. Okay, good. But nobody says this is a good habit or it's a bad habit. There is no sin in any of it. And of course, the situation is different if that causes immense suffering. Let's say you're preparing for the interview and you have the habit of visualizing the outcome, which perhaps energetically may even positively influence the whole situation. That's how life is expressing through you. I had this intuitive behavior always. My career was totally unimaginable and impossible. And I had this dream about being ship's navigator, and intuitively I was seeing myself in it already, and it happened against all odds. But as I look back at that, I know that just how life played it out, how life unfolded. Luckily, there was no one there to disturb the life unfolding. So if that is how the life is orchestrating your dream job or whatever, you are the no thing, you are the space in which this is happening. You don't have to stop it, start it, only notice. Noticing is the only thing that space might be doing, although space is not even doing it, because that space is conscious. It is the space-like awareness, we call it, or there is being, knowing, and loving to be. So in that space of conscious awareness, noticing happens. So you are the noticing, and you already pretty brilliantly notice the pattern, what's happening. You are preparing for the job, and you've caught yourself fantasizing about maybe getting that job. That's harmless. I mean, there's a lot of people who are fantasizing of not getting the job and getting totally anxious and terrified and miserable.
Thank you so much. That clarified so much to me. And last question, and it's okay if you say no. I can see that it's being recorded. Is there any way that we can have access to this recording? Because I just don't want to forget what you just said.
Of course. I can send you a link. I can send a link, maybe, gosh, how I can put it on my Dropbox. And if you either put an email or maybe send an email to Bob, his address is on the website.
Yeah.
Then I'll copy you that link and you can download it.
Fantastic. I can even, I'll sort it out. I can even send a message in the group, but yeah, no, I'll find Bob's email. Thank you so much. I've really struggled with these two things, and it is just a relief. Like I've been really set free from a lot of my problems that I carried on my shoulders for years and years in the last months after I really decided to go deep into the non-duality. Thank you so much for your meetings. It's really helped me.
That's actually wonderful. I just add that one thing, that you understand, as you said, you've looked through and you understand that there is no such thing as free will and no such thing as doing or doership. If you really follow it through to the end, you see that you can't even fix yourself or improve yourself or change your behavior patterns, because who you are doesn't really need fixing or changing. You are the absolute. And if the body is conditioned in this way, love it as it is. It's nothing wrong. That's how life is dancing the dance. That's the costume that life is wearing to see, to experience, to express itself. Nothing needs to be fixed. Did you want to?
No, that's beautiful.
Oh, sorry. I thought you would dance to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, the beautiful questions. And we are very grateful for every questions, because otherwise I just kind of tend to repeat what Bob already says and always sit in silence. It's always good to have a direction. I had a Skype call in the morning from a young man who listens to Bob, and he says, I didn't experience being sky-like awareness or space-like awareness. You know, I get all that non-duality, it is all clear. But, you know, and he asked me before a couple of times, because he's really thoroughly studying the book that I published recently on Bob's teaching. And he says, well, if the movement of energy is not that space-like awareness, because when I try and sense my being, I can sense the energy moving, I can sense the muscles, I can sense the body, I can sense the consciousness is in the body. I say, no, you can't. You can't sense the body. The body is only image that you're projecting on the plane movement of life. And that's correct. Being is not the movement of life. Movement comes and goes. Sometimes the movement of energy is very strong. Let's say if you are angry or furious, that energy is buzzing like a volcano erupting, like a thunderstorm, like a real high waves shutting at one another. The energy is very almost, you can't miss it. And sometimes when you're very relaxed, not much is happening in the body, the energy is very subtle. You can focus all of the attention, let's say on where the lips are touching, and then you can feel the sensation. But if you don't have an image that there are lips touching, you can't say they are lips. You can't say you have face. You can't say you have body, because only thoughts are telling you that. Without the thoughts in direct experience, being cannot be sensed in any way. The only thing about that being is that it can't be denied either. You can deny that you're not the body because cells are changing and the size of the body is changing. It's been different when you were a child. It's going to be different when you get old. It's changing every day. You're not your thoughts because those are changing. You're not your feelings because those are changing. You're not your self-image because self-image also is changing. You're in a good mood, you think you're right. You're in a bad mood or someone hurts you and you think, oh, you're worthless. All this is changing. You're not the energy because energy sometimes is high, sometimes is low. But the being, the screen or that empty space in which the thoughts, the feelings, the bodies, the energies, the self-image, they come and go, that never changes. That is always there. But how can I grasp it? I can't grasp it because I am it. So how would I grasp it? I would have to stop being it, and then I'm not grasping myself. I'm grasping something else. So it can't be grasped. The only thing about it is that it can't be denied. Everything can be denied, can be questioned, but that being can't be questioned. For the mind, it is nothing. It is emptiness. That's what mind calls it, nothing. When Nisargadatta says, when I'm nothing, this is wisdom. Mind says I'm nothing. So that deliciousness of aliveness of being in the experience of the dualistic computer here, instrument, it is nothing. So there's no point trying to grasp nothing. It's ungraspable, it's nothing to grasp. But at the same time, if not for that nothing, if not for that sense of presence, existence, there is no experiencing. There is no love, there is no life. So it is really something that can't be denied, but it is a prerequisite for everything else. Even though it is nothing, it is a nothing with the potentiality of everything. It expresses as everything. So I told him, look, the bad news is you will never be able to feel space-like awareness or sky-like awareness because there is nothing to feel. There is no feeling in that. If you think that Bob feels like it or I feel like it, no, that's not. This is just a metaphor. This is just the way we present it. We say empty screen, or we say absolute or totality or I am. And those are all wrong. Neither of it is that. Bob calls it intelligence energy, which is a brilliant way of calling it because it is the energy that animates everything. And it is brilliantly intelligent because look at every pattern, how incredibly intelligent it is. But still even calling it intelligence energy. Now this is it. I can say I am intelligence energy. And then someone on Skype call will tell me, yeah, but I don't feel that I'm intelligence energy. And I tell you something, I'm Polish. In my language, it doesn't even sound that nice. Because it's much more harsh language. So it isn't any of the labels or descriptions. It is the very, very thing that has always been there, that is closer than your breath, that is so intimately there, the heart of hearts, the very aliveness, the most intimate feeling of existence deliciousness of aliveness that cannot be extracted, that is there even in the deep sleep. Even when the memory of that is not there, because in the deep sleep, the mind is creating different world, different reality. So it doesn't attend to this one, although it is alert enough that it wakes up when necessary. But it doesn't create memory. In the deep sleep, there is no memory. So it can't be related to as an object. But even without the deep sleep, nobody remembers of the being. We only remember, every memory is of what's changing, the context, the situation, even some people can memorize their own face or the interactions, but not the being. The being is completely transparent, is invisible, untraceable, unsensible, is pre-sensory. So it's not, oh yeah, go on, Ernie.
Hi, good evening. I just want to say thanks to you guys and thanks to Bob for saying, I didn't realize it, but it hits me earlier when he said, like, first establish that you are already that, you realize that. Because in the past few days or maybe weeks, what happened is that I knew that there was this something that's striving, although it's lurking there, but in a very, very subtle way. And I knew then when you said, like, you first established that you are already that, I knew that it was the me, the ego, that's trying to, get into point A to point B. But but you said you are already that. There's nothing to fix, and I was just like, kind of open my, a bit, there's a bit of a light to it, because also, and I remember that also, that in his first book, that also Ramana said that realization is nothing to be gained afresh, it's already there. And I just completely missed that out for the last, and then now Bob's speaking that, and it's just reminded me that the I here, or the me, it's nothing but a story created by all the experiences every day, and then somehow make it into your brain and stuck in the cells and in the memory. But it's just a story. There's this subtle way, like when I become conscious, then it's the ego, it's the me. It feels like, when you are humble and no one says you're humble, then, and once you're conscious that you are humble, then you are not humble. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's something like that. So it's very, very subtle to me. But in fact, it's quite difficult. Actually, it's quite a little bit tricky, because we are going to the realm of religion, like enlightenment, and that's where it's somehow you can't, it's not, the more you're trying to be, pious or something, then anyway. So, but yes, you are already like that, and it's just like a load has been lifted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. That's the heart of the message. There's nothing to be had. There's nothing to find. There's no one who is seeking. There is just a story going on. You are already that. Everything is that. There's nothing that's not that. And just see what obscures it, a story. That's the only thing that appears and disappears on that. That's beautiful. If that kind of dawn on you, wonderful. You can see how the body may still be trying to be pious or humble or whatever, because the body has been conditioned to follow social order, but you're not doing it. The body is habitually doing it, like Nisargadatta's body was habitually smoking bidis. He wasn't doing it. He wasn't smoking anything. The life doesn't smoke, but expressing through the body and as the body, it appears as a body smoking bidis. So if the body is, let's say, practicing kindness, doing good deeds, because that's its nature or that's its conditioning, you are the space in which the body is doing whatever it is conditioned to do. And you are free from being the body, conditioned body, not conditioned body. You don't have to fix the body then. You don't have to stop or start or try, because you know that as space, as that, you're not the doer. Life is dancing, is engaging everything. Like the body is engaging with the environment because it's not separated from the environment. But you are the same, you are that awareness of what's happening, always and ever, already. If you had the story before that, oh no, I'm not that open space like awareness, I'm just a little me who is trying to do the best I can. Yeah, good. That story is also noticed. That is part of the appearance. In that open space of what you are already that. Body appears, trees, buildings, other people, thoughts that I'm trying to do my best, thoughts that I don't know what's going to happen. All of them appear just the same as the room, the computer, the feelings, all of them appear. And you just see the beauty of the incredible display, magnificent way it expresses. So mysterious, so fascinating. You see the body is going to respond to something in a way. If you are not the body, if you are the pure awareness, you keep discovering fresh and new moment, fresh and new behavior, fresh and new feeling, without relating, translating, interpreting. And if relating, translating, and interpreting happens, that's just part of the display, part of the magnificent show. But you are free, the truth that sets you free. You are already that. That's the truth that sets you free. Recognize that and enjoy the ride.
You spoke about humility. Well, we can be proud of our humility. But the true humility is when there's no one to be either proud or humble.
Yeah. And that being proud of the humility is just habitual narrative. All our values or the most cherished beliefs, philosophies, viewpoints, opinions, attachments to diets or political standpoints, or they're all just habituated narratives. Neither of that is really our own. They were all sum total of the influences of the teachers, school, societies, culture, weather, diet, climate, all of it. The whole universe creates that particular attraction in that particular body to that philosophy, opinion, or taste, or music, or it's nothing personal. Or behavior, or value, of humility, or goodness, or all of it is part of the display. And it doesn't stop. It's not that suddenly you realize that you are that and you are a decent citizen and now you become a psychopath who doesn't really care because this is all dreams, I'll go and kill everyone around me. No. Because yesterday before you realized, there was no one there either. They have never ever been any self-ego or separate entity there. So if you were a decent human being 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and you have the tendency to strive to be as kind and as sweet and as helpful and as dear, well, that's probably a tendency that is going to carry on. But without self-hatred that comes from the narrative, it only has the biggest chance to blossom. That's what happens. I love when Bob explains it. Very often people imagine that enlightenment means that I'm going to be holy. I'm gonna only have positive thoughts. I'm gonna be only loving towards everything. I'm never gonna have any sense of anger or any emotion, negative emotion. That's a beautiful sales pitch dream, completely unrealistic. Because cats, dogs, trees, parrots, flies, mosquitoes, they all respond to the environment in dualistic way. Sometimes there is pleasure, sometimes pain, sometimes cold, sometimes warm, winter, summer, day, night. And the normal response to displeasure or discomfort is some sort of a displeasure or discomfort. It may cause anger, it may cause any other movement of energy, which we later on label. But what happens when psychological suffering is lifted? What happens with the, like, it's just so intuitive when you see a person who has a very heavy burden of, oh my God, everybody hates me. I'm so ugly. I hate everyone. I'm suffering so badly. I feel like a dog with herpes that wants to bite everyone else. So they suffer with me. Or you have someone who is light and just feels like sharing a joy. Like just, oh, you got your dream job. How wonderful. I'm so happy for you. That's what happens naturally when that heavy burden of psychological suffering disappears. The natural joy and natural benevolence, natural well-wishing comes up because there's no suffering. So there's no need to make everyone else suffering. There's no idea that people should not do better, or that's what happens naturally. Can you remember how you actually express it? Because it's such a good one-liner. Oh, I know. If I don't have a concept that you are superior and I am inferior, what would I ever want from you? Why would I need to go and burn your house or attack your country, take your food, take your gold? Why would I need to steal from someone or hurt someone if I am already complete? I thought I saw someone on mute. No. Yes, so it is really simple, realizing that you are already that, you are already complete, you are already perfect, you are already clean, translucent, transparent, full of light and love, empty space. There's nothing that needs to be fixed, even if the body is perhaps too thin or too tall or too slim or too fat, and the mind is too busy or is using habitually swear words or is smoking cigarettes or whatever it does. Who you truly are is untouched by the behavior of the body or the habits of the mind.
Don't forget it.
Go on, Ernie.
Yeah, I think I think I understand what they're seeing. What Krishnamurti said, like there is no psychological evolution, which Bob said you are already that. But it's a bit tricky because like outside on the outer world, you can see that there is an evolutionary process, like a child going to teenager and becoming an adolescent, or the apple going in withers in a few days, or you see the history that the change. But in our psychology, man's psychology, there is actually no psychological evolution from going from better to becoming good. But you're already that, I think so. Yeah, it's about to say.
Yeah.
So yes, I think I understand from Krishnamurti's perspective. But thank you, that was really good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the clear empty space cannot evolve. Clear empty space that you are. How could that change or become something different or better? The body can, the character. I see there is some message here. Oh no, I think it's just Go the run. Oh yes, see you tomorrow, Adrian. Oh, he's gone. Yeah, I think it's time.
Yes,
Hmm.
thank you all.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Bob and Kat.
Thanks,
That
Bob.
was
Thanks,
great.
Kat.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Bob. Thanks,
so
Kat.
much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank
you all.
you.
Thank you so
Love
much.
all.
Have a good
Bye. Love
evening. Bye.
You
Bye.
too. Bye bye.